digital devices, like our smartphone, is the blue light from these causing us any harm? Kia ora, Siobhan here. I'm an optometrist and I've been working in New Zealand for 5 years. In this video, we're going to discuss blue light in greater detail. We're going to look at what is blue light, how do we perceive blue light, and how does blue light affect our eye health as well as our overall health. And just as a disclaimer, I may be an optometrist, but I'm not your optometrist. If you have any eye problems or you haven't had an eye test recently, I'd recommend consulting with your local eye care professional. I've written a blog post about this, so if you don't want to watch the video and hear me rambling, then I suggest head down to the description and you can look at the blog post about this topic. I've included diagrams and things in greater detail. Also, I've referenced some articles if you want to read through it as well. Now, why is blue light so controversial? Recently, we're becoming a lot more health conscious. Our exposure to blue light has increased. Our smartphones, laptops, and TVs expose us more to blue light. Now, to understand what blue light is, we first need to look at what light is. So light is part of the electromagnetic spectrum. So these include our radio waves that transmit signals from the radio station so we can listen to it inside the car, microwaves, which heat up our food, and X-rays, which allow doctors to look into the body without cutting it open. Now, the special thing about light is we can perceive light. Our eyes can detect it. Unlike X-rays, microwaves, and radio waves, which exist, but our eyes don't see. Now we know what light is. What is blue light specifically? Light has different wavelengths, and each wavelength corresponds to a color. For example, blue light has a shorter wavelength, and red light actually has a longer wavelength. Since blue light has a shorter wavelength, it has a greater frequency. Now switching over to the photoelectric effect. So this is where an experiment was done in about the early 1900s where light was shone onto a piece of metal. Now, what was discovered with this experiment was that if light was above a certain frequency or a certain wavelength, then this would cause an electric charge to be passed. If it was below this frequency, it didn't matter how bright it was, it didn't create a current. And what was found from that is light of higher frequency or a shorter wavelength has more energy. Now you can look at blue light. Blue light has a shorter wavelength, and therefore a greater frequency. Now we know what blue light is, and we know that blue light has greater energy and therefore more potential harm to the back of the eye. But what about UV light? Now UV light can be classed into 3 categories: UVA, UVB, and UVC. Now UVC and 90% of UVB is blocked out by the ozone layer. Now in relation to UV light in our eye, the cornea and lens block out most of UV light. That still doesn't mean UV light isn't harmless. UV light can result in cataract, which is the clouding of the lens, a pterygium, which is a growth over the lens, and in the short term, if you've gone skiing without goggles, this can result in sunburn to the front part of the eye. We call this photokeratitis. And now the best way to protect against UV light is obviously to wear sunglasses. Now back to blue light. We know that blue light has a shorter wavelength, a higher frequency, and therefore more energy. And we think this energy has potential to cause toxicity to the retina. The retina is the back layer of the eye that senses light. Now, there were some studies done on animals in relation to blue light. In some cases, blue light did cause damage to the retina. In addition to this, wearing blue light protection stopped this damage. But the issue with this is this hasn't been replicated in humans. Now, to be honest, in these animal studies, the blue light received was quite a lot. This hasn't been replicated in humans, and the amount of blue light from our digital devices is very minuscule compared to what we will get from 10 minutes in the sun. So to conclude with that, we know that the short-term effects of blue light isn't really there for humans, but we're really unsure about the long-term effects. Now we're going to look at the effects of blue light on your health. So blue light can affect your sleeping pattern. So our sleep is controlled by 2 major pathways. We have the buildup of adenosine, which is sleep pressure, and we have the circadian rhythm, which regulates our wakefulness. Now, the circadian rhythm is guided by our level of melatonin. High levels of melatonin decrease our wakefulness. So typically we get a lot of melatonin at nighttime. This system is synchronized by blue light. So blue light enters our eyes and it tells our pineal gland, which is what produces melatonin, to stop producing melatonin. This gives us our wakefulness. At nighttime, we'll expect less blue light and an increase in melatonin, and this is what signals to our brain to go to sleep. Now, thanks to changes in our environment, we're using more of our digital devices at nighttime, and these digital devices produce blue light, which can affect our production of melatonin at nighttime. More blue light means less melatonin, and that can affect our sleep-wake cycle. And if we don't sleep properly, it's going to have a lot more downstream effects to our health. So that include diabetes, high blood pressure, Alzheimer's, and a lot more. So you're probably wondering how we're going to prevent this, and there's no simple solution. The issue is there's not enough strong evidence to support blue light blocking glasses or even applications that reduce blue light from our devices. You're probably better off just not using these devices before you go to bed. So just to conclude, light is what is visible in the electromagnetic spectrum. Blue light has a specific wavelength, which is a bit shorter, and this means it has a greater frequency and therefore more energy. This energy has more potential for harm. UV light has an even shorter wavelength and therefore even higher energy, but most UV light is blocked out by the ozone layer, and some of the UV light can't penetrate to the eye. Plus, UV light can cause damage, such as cataracts and problems to the front part of our eye, but we can use sunglasses to mitigate against this. Blue light has shown some evidence in animal studies to cause damage to the retina, but this can't be replicated in humans. The blue light we receive from digital devices is probably not enough to cause much harm to our eyes. Blue light can affect our sleep. Blue light does signal to our brain to stop producing melatonin, which is what we need to signal sleep. And finally, with apps that reduce blue light and blue light blocking glasses, there's no strong evidence to support these. So you can try them without any harm, but there's no evidence that will actually support what it claims. And you're better off just turning off your digital devices before you go to bed. So thanks for watching this video. If you found this helpful, please share it with your whānau and friends. Thank you and have a good night. What else did I talk about? What did I talk about? What did I talk about? What did I talk about?